Welcome to the line change. In this video, we're going to be going over an article that I just happened to stumble across on Canucks Army. It's written by Jeff Patterson, and I found it quite interesting. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it. As you can see in the title of this video, it's 10 stats that tell the Canucks' story since the Four Nations break. So again, I thought it was extremely intriguing. And let's go ahead and break it down and talk about it. So here we go. 10 stats that tell the Canucks story since the Four Nations break. Written by Jeff Patterson. I believe this was earlier this morning by JPad. So let's go ahead and break it down. When the NHL season was put on hold for the Four Nations face-off on February 8th, the Vancouver Canucks were not only in a playoff position in the Western Conference, they were sitting comfortably above the playoff bar with a cushion. In fact, when league play resumed on February 22nd with 63 points in the standings, the Canucks were actually closer to third place in the Pacific. Los Angeles had 65 points than they were to their nearest pursuer, the Calgary Flames, who had 60 points. But a 1-4 road trip to start the post-tournament portion of the schedule sent the Canucks into a tailspin from which they haven't been able to recover. Obviously, injuries to Quinn Hughes and others have played a key role in the team's demise, but there are several other factors. Here are 10 stats that paint the picture of this team's stretch run. So stat number 1, the Canucks are 8-10-2 in their 20 games since the break. Their 18 points in that time sits 22nd in the league. Their 67 goals against, however, is 27th out of 32 teams. Goal scoring really hasn't been the issue for the team over the past 20 games. The Canucks have scored 56 goals, which is one behind Edmonton and two more than Winnipeg. It's goal prevention with a relatively healthy decor that has dragged the team down. So that's a very interesting stat. I actually did not know that they were doing quite well when it comes to scoring goals, and they were only one behind the Oilers and two more than the Jets, which is, in my opinion, crazy to say considering how good the Winnipeg Jets are and considering the talent they have on their team when it comes to goal scoring. Stat number 2, Canucks goaltending hasn't been good enough. I agree with him on that. The team's .878 save percentage at 5-on-5 sits tied with Chicago for 30th in the NHL since play resumed. Only Philadelphia has a lower team 5-on-5 save percentage, and only by a fraction of a percentage point. The Canucks overplayed Kevin Lankinen, and his performance suffered, and the hope is that Thatcher Demko could be some sort of savior, but after Wednesday's 5-0 loss to Seattle, Demko is just 2-2 in his latest return from injury, with a 3.02 goals against average and individual save percentage of .878. Lankinen's .880 save percentage isn't any better. Of all goalies that have made 4 starts since the Four Nations break, Lankinen sits 46th in the NHL, while Demko is 49th in overall save percentage. Now, obviously, Canucks goaltending has been not great since the Four Nations, as JPat shows in this article. I completely 100% agree with him. Goaltending has not been good enough, and I do think a factor is the Canucks overplaying Kevin Lankinen prior to Demko returning, and that also all stems from them not being confident in Artur Silovs and not wanting to play him unless it's against a lower opponent like a Chicago or a Philadelphia. They just couldn't risk playing Artur Silovs and basically ran Kevin Lankinen dry during this at least since the Four Nations break. But moving on to stat number 3. It's been a struggle for the Canucks to win games in regulation time. And in a playoff race that was tight for a while, regulation wins mattered. especially when the Canucks coughed up bonus points to teams they were battling like St. Louis and Calgary. Since Four Nations, the Canucks have just 5 regulation victories, which leaves them ahead of only San Jose, Chicago, Boston, and Pittsburgh in that category. And that is quite the brutal stat to read. As you know, the likes of San Jose, Chicago, Boston, and Pittsburgh are near the bottom of the standings in their respective conferences. Obviously, you know, there's been a massive drop off for a team like the Bruins. When you really think about it, 2 years ago, Bruins were the President's Trophy winning team. They were one of the best teams in the league. Now, 2 years later, they're near the bottom of the standings, which is hard to wrap my head around. But at the same time, as a Canucks fan, you know you love to see that. Stat number 4. The pursuit of regulation wins has been particularly challenging on the road. In 12 road games since the break, the team is 4-6-2. However, with shootout wins in Calgary and New Jersey and an overtime triumph in Los Angeles, that leaves a 5-2 victory over the New York Islanders last week as the team's lone regulation win on the road since a January 29th game in Nashville. In other words, 11 of 12 opponents have managed to take at least a point off the Canucks in their past 12 road games. Now, everyone talked about how great of a road team this Canucks team was earlier on in the season. They went on that stretch, in particular at the start of the season. Kevin Lankinen had won, I believe it was 10 road games in a row, which was, I believe, a record at that point. But since the Four Nations, Canucks have not been a very good road team, as JPat says here, since the Four Nations break. Okay, stat number 5, and here's a wild one. No team in the NHL has opened the scoring since Four Nations more than the Vancouver Canucks. So think about that for a second. No team. So no Winnipeg, not Washington Capitals, not the teams that are at the top of the standings in the league since the Four Nations break have opened the scoring more than the Vancouver Canucks. The team has found the back of the net first in 14 of its 20 games. However, it has managed to win only 7 of those contests, going 7-6-1. The first goal of games should matter more than it has. In 4 of those 14 games, the opening goal turned out to be the only goal the Canucks scored. And on the 6 occasions they've fallen behind first, they've only managed to win once, going 1-4-1 when they held off Anaheim's 3-2 on March 5th. So that is a wild stat to look at when it comes to the Canucks. Obviously, at one point during the season, the team was not good at scoring first and were consistently getting scored on first. And we saw it as a curse somewhat, and that it led to the Canucks losing. And then they start turning that around, and they still can't get a win, despite scoring first and having opened the scoring the most out of any other team since the Four Nations break. Stat number 6. The Canucks have fallen out of the playoff race despite having the best penalty killing in the NHL and by a considerable margin. Since February 22nd, the Canucks have allowed just 5 power play goals on 49 attempts. At 89.8%, they lead their nearest competitor, Tampa Bay, by 2.6%. The 49 times shorthanded puts the Canucks in the middle of the pack in terms of penalties taken over the stretch, but they have been lights out good while down a man, giving up single power play goals in games against Utah, Calgary, Minnesota, New Jersey, and Columbus. Now, I've stated in a lot of my post-game recap videos that their penalty kill has been a bright spot for this Vancouver Canucks team during this playoff race stretch, and has been the best in the NHL for the last month, but it hasn't resulted in the Canucks having more wins, obviously. Stat number 7. Pius Suter leads the Canucks in both goals and points over the last 20 games. The pending UFA has stepped up and answered the challenge in the absence of fellow centers Elias Pettersson and Philip Hedl. Suter has 8 goals and 17 points to pace the hockey club. Since the break, all 8 of his goals and 14 of his 17 points have been scored at 5-on-5. With 13, Kiefer Sherwood is the only other player with more than a dozen points as the team has fizzled down the stretch. And this is a really good point brought up by J-Pat. And yeah, Pius Suter, since the Four Nations, has been absolutely incredible. He's been on a hot streak, in particular since Elias Pettersson went down with an injury, and Philip Hedl also went down with an injury as well. He really has driven up his price when it comes to free agency. On top of the likelihood of the Canucks losing Brock Besser, I think it would be really bad for the Canucks to lose Suter as well. I would give the man what he's worth, and that's just my personal opinion. I do think you can get Suter for, I believe it's 3 points, maybe about $4 million. You could probably spend on Suter. I don't know, 3 years, but definitely the Canucks need to realize soon that they can't afford to lose Suter, because then that's just another thing you need to add to their to-do list when it comes to this offseason. And Pius Suter is proving that he is a valuable commodity for this Vancouver Canucks team. Moving on to the 8th stat. Quinn Hughes has been limited to 14 of the team's 20 games, and in those outings, the captain has 2 goals and 11 points. He hasn't scored since a March 16th game against Utah, a string of 8 games. Since the break, Hughes has been asked to shoulder a considerable workload, despite dealing with an injury that kept him out of the Four Nations tournament. Despite that, he has logged 26 minutes and 37 seconds a night, which is a full minute more per game than his season average of 25 minutes and 36 seconds. Seems less might be more when it comes to maximizing the many talents of the team's best player. Stat number 9. The Canucks have been outscored 34-20 in all situations with Filip Hronek on the ice since February 22nd. Only 2 skaters in the league have been on the ice for more goals against over that span. When Hughes was out, Hronek stepped up and played some of his best hockey as a Canuck. He has 10 points in 20 games in question. However, it's not about his offensive contributions, but his goal prevention. And in combination with some shoddy net mining of late, Hronek has struggled more than most defensively down the stretch. And I completely 100% agree with J-Pat on that. Hronek stepped up when Hughes was out and logged some big minutes, but since Hughes has been back in the lineup, he has not been that same player that he was when Hughes was out of the lineup. But moving to the 10th and final stat. Aatu Räty has been a bright spot in the short time he's been up with the big club on this recall. Not only does the young Finn have 3 goals in 5 games, but he has been a beast in the faceoff circle, winning 60.3% of his draws. That is easily the best mark among the team's current centers. Räty boasts a 38-25 win-loss record, including 17-10 on defensive zone draws. To put this in further context, among all NHL centers that have taken more than 60 faceoffs in the time in question, Räty ranks 7th in win percentage behind the likes of veteran aces Claude Giroux, John Tavares, and JG Pageau. So those are the 10 stats that tell the Canucks story since the Four Nations break. Very interesting article. I will leave the link to this article in the description down below so you guys can take a read for yourselves and read it at your own pace. And yeah, very interesting stuff. Once again, a great article from Jeff Patterson, the Canucks news reporter. But let's hang on. But so yeah, very interesting, and he makes some very, very good points about this hockey team. I know everyone is down after the game last night. For those of you that missed it, last night I was a guest on Kempner Canucks post-game show. That was a lot of fun, despite the final score, and both Rev, Trev, and I being down in the dumps a little bit on when it came to that game. But hey, it's like what he said in the live stream last night. Canucks may not have shown up last night in that game, but Rev, Trev, and I, we showed up. We talked about our Vancouver Canucks. We discussed it. We broke it down. And we just had a really good chat about, the Vancouver Canucks, the potential future for this team. And we just voiced our frustration, our disappointment in this season, especially after how amazing last season was, which more and more after each game, it's turning out to be a bit of an outlier season. However, speaking of Kempner Canucks and Rev Trev, for those of you that did not get a chance to catch that live stream, go ahead and check that video out over on Kempner Canucks on his YouTube channel. You can find it there. Go ahead and hit that like button if you guys enjoyed it. Go ahead and post a comment, of course, as well. But speaking of Rev Trev, this Saturday, the Canucks are playing the Anaheim Ducks at home. It is a 1 p.m. start. I believe tickets are still available, and you might get a good bargain if you just want to go and watch the Canucks play hockey. But both myself and Rev Trev will be at that game. We actually are going to meet up at some point, either before the game or during the intermission. We're going to meet up and talk and actually officially meet each other, face to face. So that's one thing I am very much looking forward to. I also just found out today that a friend of mine will also be at the game. So maybe I'll try and see him as well. But definitely, if you are just want to watch some hockey and, be in the building, tickets are still available. Go ahead and check them out. While we're on the subject of Canuck games, let me just quickly bring this up, as I've been doing this for a lot of my videos recently. I've been promoting a Canucks watch party that is coming up. Matter of fact, a week from today, there will be a Canucks watch party. Let me just see if I can find the image. Sorry, bear with me for one sec. There it is. So, game day at Greta. A Canucks watch party is happening at Greta Bar YVR on April the 10th. It is Vancouver versus Colorado. It is being hosted by Canucks Army, Rink Wide Vancouver, and Sekeres and Price. It is presented by Fountain Tire. Tickets are $10, and the proceeds for the tickets will go to Kids Sport, a great charity, and they are by donation. So yeah, you can get tickets for $10, or you can get a VIP package for $40, which gets you a Greta burger, a beer, and a game card for the arcade that surrounds the bar. I've been to Greta a handful of times, and it's been a great experience. I also went to a previous watch party, which was a lot of fun, despite the game result. Unfortunately, the Canucks lost that night to the Edmonton Oilers. But despite the loss, it was a great experience for me, and I had a lot of fun. I got to meet Matt Sekeres that night. Got to meet David Quadrelli of Canucks Army as well. But yeah, Matt Sekeres and Blake Price will be there at the watch party. So come on down and watch some Canucks hockey against Colorado. Perhaps, the fact that we're playing Colorado and Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar will be in town might sway you to come out and watch, despite, this disappointing season for the Canucks. So yeah, go ahead and get your tickets now before they sell out. Once again, tickets are $10, VIP package for $40, gets you a burger, a beer, and a game card. You can come on down and meet me if you wish to do so. Don't feel obliged to come and talk to me, although do not hesitate if you want to. Same goes for Matt Securis and Blake Price and David Quadrelli. He will be the host, so he'll be on the microphone. And so come on down. Doors open at 5, puck drop at 6. Secure your tickets at nationgear.ca, and I hope to see you down there at Greta on April the 10th. But that's going to do it for this video. Again, I thought this was an interesting article by Jeff Patterson. So, J-Pat, great job on the article. It was a great read and very interesting to point out those stats. For those of you that have never seen this channel before and are new to the channel, please go ahead and leave a like on this video, share, and subscribe. Become a Patreon member and get exclusive perks. The link to our Patreon page is in our video description. Join our Discord as well. Be a part of the conversation. The link to that is in our description down below as well. You can also find us on social media at on Instagram at The Line Change, on X, Line Change Van. You can look up our Facebook page. Just search The Line Change. You can find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. Also, for those of you that are more into the audio podcasts, and we are on Spotify, so you can go ahead and either watch this video or listen to it in audio format. Just look for us on Spotify. You can just search The Line Change and you'll be able to find us on there. But yeah, that's going to do it for me for this video. Once again, I hope you guys like this video, and go Canucks go, and I'll see you guys in the next video.